I'm running for Congress against Michelle Fischbach.
There's no money in ending war. There's no money in limiting government. To me, part of what makes America great are our small businesses, our small farms, and that's what's getting squeezed out by the establishment politicians.
That's why I say, raise cattle and not taxes. And my name's Travis Bull Johnson.
Hey, good morning, everybody. Welcome to our end-of-year review of Independent is Power, or I should more likely say the end-of-year recap. I'm not going to go into that much detail for a review. A lot of things happened this year, politically as well as otherwise, in my life, and as well as within a lot of yours. Of course, the big event for me this year was the election. I mean, we worked on that election pretty much all year, and that election was a recap of that year. And one of the things I really learned with that during that election, and from talking to people, is there are so many people out there who believe that I do, who believe in the Constitution, who believe that we are a country of opportunity, that we have not always been perfect. There's always room for improvement, but it does not cut down on what we are as a country and the opportunities we provide, and the faith in our Constitution. And that's kind of one of the things that led me to my decision, or helped influence my decision, to start the Constitutional Republic Party. We had a Zoom meeting the other night with the the steering committee, and one of the things that came up was the need for our firm foundation, what we're about, to protect our name. And one of the things I look at for that is, a perfect example is the GOP. You ask everybody, what does the GOP stand for today? People can't really tell you. They can tell you what it's supposed to stand for, but nobody can tell you what it actually stands for. Democrats are kind of the same way. What do you actually stand for? What is your founding? What is your driving principle? Neither one of those major parties you can really look at now and say what their driving principles are. And then look at their membership and say, yes, these are examples of those principles. So that's one of the important things for us. And our desire with the Constitutional Republic Party is to have that thing. What do you stand for? You stand for the Constitution. I'm going to go back in history a little bit now, and way back history, back to time after Civil War. Well, a lot of people don't realize, of course, everybody knows about the Emancipation Proclamation by President Lincoln that basically freed all the slaves in the southern states. What a lot of people don't realize is when Congress met after that, they basically came back and said, no, Lincoln did not have that authority under the War Powers Act, which is what Lincoln used to make that proclamation. And they basically threw it out. But at the same time, they knew that slavery was an evil thing, and that it needed to be gotten rid of in the United States. But the thing is, they looked at themselves, they looked at the Constitution, and says, yes, we need to get rid of this. But the Constitution does not give us that authority. We just can't pass a law and outlaw it, even though it's inherently evil. We just don't have the authority to do it under the current form of the Constitution. They didn't say, you know what, this is so bad, we got to pass a law regardless and let the courts fight it out, which is what typically happens now. They said this needs to change. A supermajority of the Congress people felt that way, and they went forward and pushed an amendment to the Constitution to outlaw that practice. But my whole catch on this is the fact that these sitting Congress people realized there was a limit to their power as congressmen and as the Congress of the United States. There was a limitation there. They couldn't just do this because they wanted to, because they felt like they wanted to. And right now, I believe that the Congress people in the United States from both parties are pretty much pass a law like we want it and let the courts settle it out and figure it out. The Constitution is not a difficult document. Okay, you look at it and go, hey, does this fall into this or not? Does this fall within the scopes granted by the Constitution to the United States government or United States Congress? Yes or no? A lot of these things passing right now are not even close. Okay, and it's turning the judicial branch into from an organization that should be calling balls and strikes to a third political branch. And that's never what the Constitution intended. And that's where I go. I mean, these two parties. I mean, what do they stand for? And with the Constitutional Republic Party, we always want to be known. We stand for the Constitution. We stand for that piece of paper. And yes, it is a piece of paper, and the piece of paper is worth very little when people do not want to follow it. And that's kind of the situation we're in now. I've had a lot of blowback and a lot of headbutting over the last month with a section from within the Libertarian Party who basically have said, you know what, the Constitution is garbage, throw it out. And that's not something I believe. But one of the arguments they use is basically, what effect does it have? People don't follow it. People are just ignoring it. Why have it if people aren't going to use it? If people aren't going to actually honor it? And they've got the point on that of again, why if it's not going to be followed? And my point is that then we don't get rid of the document. We make sure people follow it, and we only put people in office who will. And that's a guiding principle of our party is if you see a Constitutional Republic Party behind a candidate in November, then you know this person stands for the Constitution. They will honor the Constitution. They will vote in accordance with the Constitution. And it's going to be the party's responsibility and the judicial committee of the party to take care of or basically remove people from the party who do not act in that way. If you've not had time yet, just a few weeks ago, we passed our principles and our bylaws with the Constitutional Republic Party. Go to constitutionalrepublicparty.us. Become familiar with our bylaws, with our Constitution. Those bylaws very much leaned on the Constitution for the way it was formed, for the checks and balances we put within this party in order to protect the party and what it stands for. I mean, we put basically the equivalent of 3 branches within it just for that reason, okay? So that we can control that and control what the party stands for. We don't want a party that goes all over the place with our platform and stuff like that. One of the big factors we have when we had our meeting this week and we started talking about our platform committee is kind of the direction that we put out is we want our platform to be directly related to the Constitution. If there's an issue that's not covered by the Constitution, it should not be in our platform. We should leave that subject up to our candidates and their constituents to figure out. We don't want to handcuff our candidates and say that we're going to make all your decisions for you based on this big, super big platform. And you have to represent our platform, not your constituents. No, that's not what we want. We want you representing the Constitution because that's what we're based off of. But if there's an issue that's not covered in the Constitution, then you know what? It needs to be left up to the candidate and the constituents to figure out what their position is on it. Does that mean we're going to be in lockstep on everything when we get into Congress? No, it's not. But I don't think we should be. Okay, that's not what our intention is. Our intention is to get up there, protect the Constitution, and let the chips fall where they may on a lot of the other issues. Okay, a prime example of this, and we've covered this a few times, was ranked choice voting. Personally, as an individual, I think it's great for the party. However, the party is not going to have a position on ranked choice voting because that is not covered in the Constitution. Okay, so we're not going to pick that fight. We want a big tent, and when I say big tent, I mean as long as your beliefs are the same as ours in the Constitution and the principles set forth by the Constitution and individual liberty, you're welcome under this tent. Okay, that we may have some major disagreements in some of our areas, such as something like ranked choice voting, or something else that's not specifically enshrined in the Constitution. But it's that similarity of the belief in the Constitution that we share, and we can work our way around any of those other issues, any of those other concerns, and that's my firm belief. And when I look back at it, it's always been my firm belief, and that's really one of the reasons why I had to say, you know what, the Libertarian Party, I love the people in it. I love a lot of the things they do. But it just wasn't the right fit for me anymore because of my belief in the Constitution. I mean, when I first decided to run as a run and get involved with the Libertarian Party, I was on one of the Facebook pages, and I asked, hey, at that time, what is the difference between a libertarian and a constitutional conservative? And on that, and that was a huge Facebook group, and most of the feedback I got back from that was, well, there wasn't really a big difference. We believe in a lot of the same things. And so that was one of the reasons, yeah, this is kind of the party for me. But then over the last year, I've noticed that there's that big divide between that and between patriotism. I mean, I see myself as a patriot. I believe in the United States and what it can be, what it should be. Whereas a good portion of the Libertarian Party currently don't really believe in any overreaching government. Okay, they're against the Constitution. Why? Because it basically forms a federal government to begin with. That is part of their big complaint or big argument against the Constitution, and they don't feel that unless they have personally signed up for that, then they should be held accountable to a federal government. And I don't think that's a winning strategy. I don't think it's going to grow the Libertarian Party, and it doesn't fit into my personal beliefs anymore. And that's kind of where I said, you know what, it's time for me to go a different route. And that was probably one of the biggest things that happened to me over this past year, is that realization of, hey, you know what, you're still, even with the Libertarian Party, you're still a square peg for a round hole. We have to make our own hole. And that, because there was no party out there that really represented me, that really spoke to what I speak to, what I feel. And I realized that when I was on the campaign trail and we would talk to people and we would talk about these subjects. And one of the biggest comments or compliments I got from them was when we talked about these things, they're like, you know what? You're real. You believe this. Yes, I believe in this. If I didn't, I wouldn't be going through what we're going through right now to form this party. I mean, trust me, this is intimidating. Okay, I mean, to form a new political party from scratch, you're not building it or switching it over from another organization. You're not trying to take over another organization. You're trying to start from the ground up. Is an intimidating action. Okay, when you start thinking about all the forces that are going to be against us eventually, all of the detractors, all of the comparisons we're going to have with the other parties that are not the two-party system, and how are we going to differentiate between us and them, and why we are different, how none of them have ever been able to make a difference, and why we're going to be able to make a difference. And I believe we're going to be able to make a difference because of what's in our heart, because what we believe in. And we're in a situation now where we know if we believe in this Constitution, we believe in this country, we know our country is in danger. We know our country is at the brink of almost a civil war between the right and the left. And right now, there's a lot of people who don't see any other routes. We are that other route. We are, and what people need to understand is We don't need to win a majority of Congress to make a difference. To make a major difference, all we have to do is earn enough seats to keep either of the other parties from being the majority. At that point, we become basically, we get enough control and power to be able to protect the Constitution by saying, hey, we're just not going to vote for anything that violates the spirit and the words of the Constitution. We're just going to vote against it, okay? And at that point, the Democrats are not going to work with the Republicans. Republicans are not going to work with the Democrats. We're going to be the only ones they're going to be willing to work with. And in order to work with us, we're going to need those concessions. We're going to need those agreements and these changes, these structural, these fundamental changes, not only in the law, but in the rules within Congress that will put the voice back in the people's hands. Okay. I believe this. Okay. And I believe it's worth the fight. As I said, it's going to be a hell of a fight. I mean, we are basically going to be a threat to the entire power structure of this country. But you got to start somewhere. And for us, I mean, it's brand new. I mean, we're already running into some of the pushback. We are already, as we were trying to get our donation pages, our programs put together, we were just notified with the program that we're planning on using, which is Anadot, which is a program that a lot of campaigns do use for their fundraising, because it collects the information you need to be able to report to the state or to the FEC. And Anadot basically came back and says, well, no, we're not going to take you on as a customer. Our underwriting said no. Okay, why did your underwriting say no? Well, we're not going to tell you that. Why? I mean, so we started going through it. I mean, we looked through all their criteria. We met all their criteria. So at this point, we are stuck going, okay, maybe the issue is you don't believe in what we believe in. Maybe you don't believe in us being your goal is to help these other parties stay in power and not challenge that power. So you're not going to help us because and that's the only thing that we can think of. I mean, why else would you not do it? I mean, I used Anadot recently to set up as a test run on my campaign page, and it was improved almost immediately. There was no questions, there was no asked, no issues. When we set it up for the party, we did it exactly the same way. There was no big difference. We used the same bank. We had a lot of the same documents. So there was no real reason why one should be approved and the other one was not, other than what we stand for as a party. And a party is a lot bigger threat to the uniparty than an individual candidate is. So we're already running into that. So we found another program. We're in the process of adding it to our webpage now. Hopefully we'll have it live very soon, because that's really been what's holding us back, because that program is also going to be the program that we use for our party membership. So that's what's going on with that. But I mean, that's part of where we're going. I mean, that's where my focus has been changed since the election. Is kind of like, you know what, I still think we need to be able to make a difference. We're still not happy. And you know what, we are getting some great support, and we're getting support from both ends of the political spectrum. I mean, that was one of the challenges I had in our Zoom meeting the other night, is people keep on wanting to think that we are a conservative organization. Well, we believe in a conservative reading of the Constitution, but that doesn't necessarily mean that we are only for people who consider themselves conservatives. I mean, yes, we are physically conservative, but we are not socially conservative in any stretch of the imagination. And you have people on the Democratic side who those social issues, those are what's important to them, not the money, not the big government. It's the fact that people need to be able to live their own lives. And I kind of touched on this on my personal page yesterday with a quick post I put up. And it's one of the things I think people need to realize and understand is You don't have, as Americans, you don't have a right to be treated badly by an asshole. Not to be treated badly by an shame, but no, it's not. It's not the government's role to protect you from an asshole. As long as they're not physically hurting you or interfering with your rights, telling you you can't do something, then guess what? They can be an asshole. And there is no protection to that. Okay. But at the same time, that asshole can't stop you from doing what you want to do. I was on a conversation last night with a friend of mine who I have run across before, or I've run against before. Alicia, she's a great girl. She was running under the Democrat in the primary for same congressional seat that I ran against, and I call her all the time. I call her my MAGA Democrat because she is very much a America First type candidate. But she's coming at it from the Democrat side rather than the Republican side, in the fact that she focuses on the way people are treated. And one of the things we talked about is okay. So you have these people who say, hey, I identify as an animal. I identify as a cat or a dog or whatever. You know what? If you're 18, identify how you want. Okay, I don't care if it doesn't interfere with me, but don't expect me to change my behavior to accommodate you. I don't have to do that. I've got a freedom to do and act as I want to, as does society. The fact that you consider yourself or you identify yourself as a dog does not mean society has to agree with you. That is a whole part about so much of our program is of our policies are you can make the choices you want to make, but it does not mean that we are endorsing the choices that you make or agreeing with the choices you make. We're just acknowledging that these are your choices to make. So if your choice is that you think you're a dog, more power to you. All I'm going to say is I'm not going to call you a puppy. I'm not going to address you as a puppy, and don't piss on my lawn. Okay, that's basically how it comes. It's exactly as Pat said, is live and let live. Now, is there lines that still need to be drawn? Of course. I mean, when it comes to kids, I think that everybody agrees that those lines that need to be drawn there. But I think one issue we have and the conservatives have specifically is, though most of us agree that it is the parents' responsibility to raise these kids. They're the ones who are responsible for them. But the conservatives have a hard time with letting go when those parents' ideas of how to raise that kid does not match the conservative view. Okay, now all of a sudden they go from it's a parent's choice, it's a parent's responsibility to we have to protect them from their parents. How do you draw that line? Okay, I mean, how do you say you're for parents being able to raise their kids as they see fit to nope, the government has to step in and tell you have to do it on this specific case. It doesn't work that way, guys. I mean, it's across the board. Are there some things that, again, society does need to step up and say, hey, you know what? Of course, we don't believe in child abuse. Of course, we think children need to be protected from physical harm. Okay, I think everybody will do that. But you know what? I mean, just because they believe in flat Earth, okay, you know what? We all know. Well, I'm not. Maybe that's a bad example because I know there's a bunch of people who support me who are actually flat earthers. Which again, you know what? It's your choice. I don't have to agree. But I having traveled the way I have, I don't agree with you. But if they want to, it's like religion. If they want to raise their child in a certain religion, your religion has nothing to do with it. That you don't agree with that religion has nothing to do with it. Where do you draw those lines? And we draw that line as long as that child's not being physically hurt, then it is the parent's responsibility. And if those children are being hurt, that's the time when society or government needs to step in to protect the kids. But overall, that's that parent's responsibility, and the parents need to be held accountable. Um, so that's my little spiel on that for today. Let me see. Let me go to my comments here. I'm trying to look at the camera a lot more today than I normally do, so hopefully y'all aren't seeing the top of my eyes, which is usually what happens when I stare at my computer screen at the comments the whole time. Hey, morning, Jose. Let's see. Yeah, exactly, Sarah. And Pat, yeah, I mean, so we're on the same shitty music, but that's what we're trying to do with our new party, is we're trying to give these people the options. We're going to have a lot of fights. Okay, we're going to, especially from the right. The right knows they're the GOP knows they're in a position of weakness right now. They have proven time and time again they cannot win a statewide election. Okay, so a lot of their arguments on that we're just going to split the votes and allow a Democrat to win right now, it's not going to work because they're not winning those statewide races anyway. And we'll go, you know what, guys, y'all have had your opportunity. Y'all have shown you can't do it. Get out of the way. Let somebody else in. And a lot of our districts are going to be the same way of the fact that, one, you take these districts where the Democrats are dominating, there is no reason for the Republicans to have an issue with us getting in there because they're not swinging those districts where we have a chance to get in there and make a difference. A lot of our districts in greater Minnesota are so heavily Republican that we can get in there and it's still not, we can split a vote and it still won't allow the Democrats to win. Okay, but we are going to have to be careful about those races that we do enter, and especially for the time being, because we're going to need to be able to spend our limited resources where they're going to do the most good. And I think most of you already understand this because we've said it over and over again. In 2024, our big push is going to be on the only statewide race that will allow us to get majority party status, which is the U.S. senatorial race. We have approached some candidates on that for that. We are waiting to hear back some responses. That's not to mean that's the only race we're going to run. I would love to have a candidate running in every federal race in this state in 2024. I'd like to have somebody challenging every congressional seat. Because again, that is one of the things that's going to make a difference on how we are seen. How competitive are we? Are we going to be there, and are we going to be in all of those big races? And I would like to see us in those, to be in each of those races and giving people that clear choice. That said, in 2024, I do not plan on, I've pretty much made the decision of I am not going to run for federal office in 2024. I believe as organizing and starting off this party and working with this party for the next couple of years, that would be a conflict of interest for me to be running for federal office at the same time as we're kicking off this party. I've said before, I had no intention on running for a state office. I am going to be re-looking at that right now. Because it will help the party to get people in the state legislature, and without that big conflict of interest. Because again, a lot of this party for the first few years is going to be focused more on the federal side, even though we are going to be supporting some local candidates. So I am considering right now running against Deb Keel, who is our state representative here in the Polk County area. And we'll play it by ear. I have approached somebody about the possibility of running for Congress in CD7, which is the district that I am located in, and I hope she considers it. I mean, we pointed her to our bylaws and our platform to take a look at that, see if it's something you believe in, and we'll see how it goes. But that's kind of where we're at right now. And the name of this program is Independence Power. How does that fit in with our political party now? Because I was always saying independent was power because you weren't, attached to those political parties and what their rules were and what their decisions were, and what their desires are. And to a certain extent, with our new party, our Constitutional Republic Party, I see that as really being an independent party. I mean, we have a very tight focus, and outside of that focus, you do have the freedom to act and vote how you would like to. Is it constitutional? Then by all means. Okay. Does it expand government? Then you vote against it. I mean, that is kind of where our principles are, shrinking the government. And if it violates your individual liberty, we vote against it. But there's a lot of things that don't fit into any of those categories. And there's a lot of things where people are going to have to sit down and with their constituents say, hey, I represent you. What is your feelings on this? And as Pat said, yeah, independence from the Uni Party. Hey guys, I want to thank everybody who showed up today. We'll open up the floor for any questions right now, if you may have any. In our Zoom meeting the other night for the party, it almost turned more into a podcast with a lot of the questions that would come up. And I'm like, okay, this is more for a podcast. Problem is, I'm not getting all these questions on the podcast. I'm getting them in the Zoom meeting. So please, guys, if you have any questions, please let us know. Meanwhile, I'm going to do a little bit more of a recap from the past year. Our farm has continued to grow. For those of you who don't know, when I retired from the Army, we got 40 acres up here in northwest Minnesota, and we started a small livestock operation. We raise cattle, we raise goats, we raise pigs, and a bunch of poultry. We're starting to focus a little bit more on the goats, just because with the inflation and the rising of feed cost, we get better return on investment with goats than we do for cattle. Just because of the huge inputs 1,000 or 1,500 pound cow has compared to 120 or 140 pound goat. But the restrictions on selling these items was another reason I got involved in politics, is because the government makes it so hard for individual producers to compete against their favored corporate companies. And that's one of the things, again, we wanted to change. Those kind of regulations, those are the things that are anti-constitutional. There is nothing on the Constitution for them to do that. I mean, they've expanded the Commerce Clause to cover anything and everything they want to within commerce, and that was not the intention. The intention of the Commerce Clause was to make sure that trade was encouraged and allowed and helped between states, between people in different states. It wasn't a matter of let's keep people out of it. Let's keep the competition out of it. So make sure these individuals succeed and become too big to fail. That's not what was supposed to be happening there. So that's kind of what we have going on here on our farm. My previous campaign manager before Pat was a young lady named Essie Fielding. She was the one who came up here and got involved with me from the start. And then after a little bit, it was just we had too much different stuff going on. So she had to step away. During this past year, she basically approached us and we talked a little bit and she said, hey, I tell you what, I mean, you house me, you feed me, I'll help you with the farm. And with us being so busy on the campaign, that turned into a very good, advantageous issue for both of us. Because she got out into a better living situation. We got so much more help here on the farm, and it's really allowed me to concentrate on these other issues we have politically, which I'll be honest, it's hard for me because I retired from the Army to do the farming. It's part of what I love. I mean, I enjoyed my time with the animals. I enjoy spending time with them. It grounds me. And to a certain extent, I like animals more than I like most people. But it still felt like I had a responsibility to keep on serving this country and to try to make it better and return it to its roots. And having Essie on board has helped me with that. Helped me on that is a great deal. And so we appreciate her stepping in to help with that. So that was one of our other big changes in this year. My daughter Lexi had been living in the cities. She was from when she went to school there. She was out there 4 or 5 years, but her and her significant other recently moved down to the St. Louis, Missouri area for him to complete work on his doctorate degree. So we actually get to go out there. We're gonna have lunch. We're gonna go down to the cities tomorrow and have lunch with them because they'll come up as far as the cities, but they're not gonna come up to the Great White North. That is the Grand Forks area. My son just in a couple of days is going to close on his first home purchase. He's out in the Dilworth area. He's a mechanical engineer out there. And our daughter Jamie is still with the University of Minnesota Crookston, taking classes online to finish up her degree while she's really been busting her rear end on a job here in town, as well as going through school. And can't be any prouder of my kids, although not all of them agree with me politically. Lexi specifically, she won't even talk politics with me. Okay, she's pretty far on the left end of the spectrum, and I think Chris kind of puts up with me. Jamie believes a lot like I do, but at the same time, she's just not really into talking politics. So I'm kind of on an island as far as that is concerned, with my kids supporting us politically. We do have a lot of family members who are participants, who are backing on what we're doing, who believe what we do. But it just kind of goes to say, if we can within our family, with all of our different political views, still get along, there's no reason why our country does not. And I'll have him reach out to you, Sarah, for mortgage protection. But I haven't seen any more questions come in, so we're gonna go ahead and close this out. I do want to thank everybody for being on. One last announcement. I don't know how many of y'all know Jeremy Johnson. Jeremy Johnson was a member of somebody who helped coordinate the People's Convoy to Washington, D.C. He goes under the Disrespected Trucker. They've got a radio network now that called the Disrespected Trucker Radio Network, that they're looking to have shows going on for anywhere between 1 and 3 hours every night of the week. And he has approached us and actually asked me if I would be willing to host our own show on the Disrespected Trucker Radio Network, where we could talk about our party and basically just be a political show. And I told him, sure, why not? So hopefully we're going to have some more information coming down the pipe on that. It seems like I'm spending more and more of my time now in front of a computer or on a phone than I am doing anything else. But I guess that's kind of the nature of the beast, and we're going to have to do everything we can to get word out about what we're doing to as many people across this state as possible. And yes, Pat, it is very exciting. But one thing I want everybody to realize too, we're talking about this being throughout the state. We're talking about the way of the timber wolf is kind of one of our mottos right now. But our goal is not limited to this state. Our goal is to expand this throughout the country and to become a major political party in the United States of America. It has become a political party that takes enough congressional or Senate seats to prevent another party from being a majority, to making it where you have to cut deals to get stuff done, and we have to get concessions to bring our country back to the limitations set by the Constitution. It's to prevent a majority leader of the House of Representatives from being elected who could set rules on who can speak from the floor, where only their party can do so. Or worse, like it is now, where their party can't even do so. It all has to come through leadership. That's not what the founders intended with our Constitution. Those are the things we're going to be fighting against. Okay, those kind of rules and structural things that the parties have put in place that go are contrary to the spirit of the Constitution. Even if the Constitution did say they are responsible for setting their own rules, that is not what they intended when they said you're going to have X amount of representatives per one representative per how many people and 2 senators by state. They meant for those people to be representing those people in those states, not only a political party. I mean, the founding fathers, from everything I've seen, have really warned us against these political party systems. And this 2-party system is the absolute worst, because it means somebody is always in control, and it's not us, the people. So with that, guys, I'm going to let you go. Remember, independent is power. And thank you all for joining me. And we'll see you again next week. Bye-bye.